will mean we are officially okay. So now it's officially live on the YouTube link that I've sent out, and it's all. I don't even care about the rest of that. But um, yeah, to begin, Todd, it's nice to meet you. I'm gonna say in voice, in person, as best as we can get, and this is my co-host
Vir-
Ian.
yeah, virtually. I
Hello.
guess that. Hello. That's as good as we get these days.
Yeah. Where are you located? Are you in closer to HRM?
Yeah. Do you know? You must know where West Side is. The beer store, maybe? No.
Yes,
Yes.
Uh,
I have a paper
yeah.
bag from there.
A what?
Uh,
Oh, paper bag.
yeah, it's friends of mine. When we were choosing beers one night,
Yeah.
they said, "Oh, I got these at West Sides," and I said, "Oh, okay." And
Yeah.
it's one of the few places you can get. You can get the Caber Crusher from Lund's Mill there.
Yeah. There's a few nice things you can get there. It's nice. So, as you're driving on the Buy High, I'm between the Bears Lake exit and the Kearney Lake exit.
Hmm.
Does that kind of narrow it down a bit?
Very. Yep. I know the
Yeah.
area. My family's down in HRM. I'm there pretty
Yeah.
often.
I'm not too far from Kearney Lake Road. I'm north of Clayton Park West, south of Bedford,
Hmm.
kind of it's where the rednecks reside, I guess.
I mean, it's
You avoided all the kerfuffle there last summer when the place caught fire and
it
for
was on
about
the way though.
Yeah, my wife was a little worried, but like it was kind of like this direction from us, so it would have had to come through the chain lakes, or sorry, not the chain lakes, the Birch Cove Lakes,
Mm.
and the big quarry. There's a massive quarry
Oh yeah,
just across
yeah,
the
yeah.
road from us. So there's quite a big buffer, so I wasn't too worried. But yeah, it was worrisome. We could see it from here.
To hear them announce it, it
Yeah.
sounded like because they were talking about, oh, we've got the finger over the button to evacuate Kearney Lake, and we went, oh my god, you're going to evacuate? Wow, that's big, and that was when it really started to seem big to me.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
went
Yeah.
to
Anyway,
I went to junior high out in Tantallon, so all my friends, when they're saying Hammond's Plains is on fire, I thought I know everybody there. You
Yeah.
don't burn that place down. What are you doing?
we had friends there as well, and they were out for 10 days. And in fact, they just sold their house, that very same house, because they're moving back out to Ottawa. The very same house. There's far less trees around it than there used to be, but they were one of the only ones that actually did. No, not one of the only ones. They were one of the very lucky ones where the fire was on their doorstep, but didn't quite take the house. So, but it took an awful lot.
Yeah.
It was very scary. Yeah.
So many sad
got-
stories.
I've got some company this evening.
You
You
do.
might see them buzzing around my face a
Oh, I
little
haven't
bit,
seen-
and I do have some emergency backup. I
Right.
do have it here just in case.
Just spray that on
'cause
top of
obviously I
your
am in-
beer so that the bugs don't get in it. Just give it a good little.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Because out here in Kenya, in Mombasa, as I said, it's a warm evening. It's a warm evening. You can probably hear the birds
Yep.
in the background
Did-
and the
Did you take your
kookaburras.
malaria pill this morning?
No, I had cornflakes. Will that do?
Good enough.
Okay, good.
It's fine. It's fine, Patrick. We've talked. Okay, so we've got the nice depressing bonfires and wildfires out of the way, but I think we got all of our beverages available in front of us and ready to go. So, without further ado, I am Ross. Joining me is my co-host Ian as well. But we are extra lucky tonight to be talking to Todd, the beer dude of Maritime Beer Report. Together, we are going to attempt to drink Nova Scotia dry, at least slightly drier than it was when we start.
I've been trying for 40 years, so no luck yet.
We when we named this, I think we had this conversation a few times where Ian says, "Aren't we going to run out of beers?" And every time we go and we find, you often go into the breweries themselves and see what's new, and we've got 6 new ones, and I think we only drink 2 a week. That we are never, ever.
Wow.
I don't think we're going to run out, which is, I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Yeah, just before we went on air there, got a message from Schoolhouse. They have a new beer, a white IPA, so
Oh,
you'll never run out of beers.
oh no, and it's funny because we try to explore Nova Scotia, and I have no idea how you do it. Where you got to keep track of all the ones in New Brunswick and PEI as well. And do you include Newfoundland?
No, I don't really have any contacts over there.
Mm.
I have to tell you, since COVID, I've really been. I took a new. I figured in April 2020 it was a good time to start a new job.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
the new job's kept me pretty busy while I had a lot of work to do during COVID because essential worker. So traffic was great, but very busy. I was kind of jealous of everybody just sitting home playing Call of Duty and smoking weed.
So
Uh,
was I.
yeah,
Well,
but
we did a lot of, well, I mean, not a lot, but we know a lot of touring musicians and kind of creeped most of the local open mic nights and small performance areas and things like that. So that was kind of our get out and do. So I wanted a reason to keep drinking beer and talking to friends. So we kind of created this out of COVID as well. And
cool.
it I don't know, it's just it's continued because it's tasty. It's something that I learned definitely in the first year is I suddenly realized, wait a minute, none of these taste awful. None of them.
Well, we've had a lot that do in the last 3 or 4 years, have we not? I have.
You say a lot. Well, that's because you don't like sours, and I have to put on my I'm drinking a sour beer hat on and say, all right, I have to appreciate what's happening in this beer, despite the fact that I don't really like it all that much.
Well, Todd,
Yeah.
you just mentioned there that the schoolhouse have got a new white IPA, and we're never going to run out of beers. We're certainly never going to run out of IPAs
No,
if the breweries have got anything to do with it anyway.
I know every time you think, well, they can't invent any more IPAs, and more show up.
Bingo. Yeah,
Propeller,
that's right.
our first stop today. They and in fact, I think I posted a picture of it because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was because Propeller's got the Azaka, their IPA, they've got their double IPA, they've got a few different themed IPAs as well, and then they had a new one, and it was just called the Cold IPA.
Yeah.
And I thought,
Cold is a flavour. No, cold is not a flavour.
I was curious as to how Propeller thought we were serving our IPAs up until that moment.
Mm.
So guys, game changer. All right, lower the temperature, and then
No, it is a thing. It is a thing, though, isn't it? Because you Canucks, you like your beer cold traditionally. I'm not saying that it's the best way, and I'm not saying everybody does, but those in the know, Todd, don't serve it at 1 degree above zero. Those in the know that beer has a flavour and it's not cold, and it should be allowed. I mean, depending on the beer, of course, but people just immediately stick all their beers in the fridge, and then and where does the flavour go as a result? As a result
Yes.
of a lot of it.
Where does it go?
That's very sad.
to the
But anyway.
to the icy cold flavors, and that worries me ever so slightly because this first one of the lower there wasn't really a theme tonight other than when we have a guest on we say what do you want to drink. So Todd had a favorite and he mentioned a couple of other new ones, and we settled on a few interesting ones. So this is kind of a group think of options. But the first one at the lowest alcohol percentage at 4.8% is from Propeller Brewing Company out of Halifax, and it is called the Prickly Pear, but it is a lagered ale. So
Lovely color.
it's a fruity lager? Is that what's going on?
Oh wow, it's
It's got some
I've heard a lot of good things about it. I'm not. It's made with prickly pear flavor.
I've got questions right off the bat.
Oh, yeah.
About this.
There's a word on the descriptor on the side that worries me, and I'll see if you can guess which one it is. Despite its thorny exterior, the prickly pear cactus fruit is delightfully juicy, mildly sweet, and pleasantly tart. Pouring this beautiful pale pink, this brew invites you to a sun-kissed desert oasis with every sip. Tart is the word that gives me pause.
I thought you were going to say it's. That was the word that was worrying me.
I'm really worried about it's. Well, you know me, I'm a Python fan, so you always get worried when someone says just it's.
Can you smell it, though? Very, very tropical smelling.
Very fruity, very tropical. It is pouring pink. Todd's looks more orange than pink.
It did pour out pink. I don't know why it changed color. It did come out pink, I swear.
It's pink. It's like a
Maybe
pink champagne.
I was just about
look
to say
to
a
it.
champagne kind of cup.
just to make sure, I did pour it from this, so
Yeah.
but
Same ones. And I
I
Very
think
pink.
it might be maybe my light bulb, because when I kind of hold it away from the light, it's pinker.
no, mine's
Gentlemen,
the more I pour into it, the more orangey it gets.
what
All right.
what temperature would your pink prickly pear drink be, by the way? Because mine hasn't long been in the fridge. I just put it in there just to cool it off a little bit. It is obviously a summery drink aimed straight at the sitting out in the warm weather on the deck or on the beach kind of feel to it. So I guess it's going to have to be cold. Right there, negating everything I said about 2 minutes ago, laughing at people that want their drinks to be ice cold all the time. This is probably one that deserves to be a little cooler. And it's mine's been in the freezer about 10 minutes, so it's just cooled off a little bit.
Lagers, I think I prefer a colder lager. Everything else, I'll bring it up a bit, to be cool, not cold temperature. But I think lagers are best cold. But so this one might be a bit warm.
This one's great. I think I'll have to get some more. I've heard a lot of people raving about it online, so it's nice to finally try it.
Now, is this new to their season? Is this new to Propeller as well? This is.
Yeah. I don't recall seeing it before. I think it's brand new. Maybe a month or so ago, a couple months.
Might be one of the newer ones we've ever tried. Usually we're way behind the times because there's just so many to drink.
Rebecca had it from last night. I said I got that box set. This is in the 4-box set. There's a lime in there and some kind of, I forget now. Anyway, there are 4 very, very summery ales in there. And last night she had, the night before or whatever it was, she had the prickly pear out of it because she was curious, as I am. And the look that she was giving me wasn't fully encouraging. And I've heard other people say the same thing, that he didn't particularly love it. But I guess I'm looking forward to trying it. You've got to try stuff. Have you not?
Bet you my wife will like this one. The head on it does it more like a cider. It's a bit more foamy than frothy. Yeah. Righto. Cheers.
Cheers.
Well, it didn't do the over tart thing that I was worried about, which a lot of the sours do. It hits with that, and I almost can identify that as cactus fruit, even though I don't think I've ever had a cactus fruit in my entire life. I have no idea what that flavor is, but that is a fruit flavor that I don't think I've experienced. But you can tell it's a fruit flavor. Does that make sense?
Big time.
Yeah.
It's got a sweetness and a little tiny bit of a citrus, but no aftertaste. It smooths out. In fact, there's at the latter half of it, it's maybe a little hollow.
I'm thinking. Have you ever had any of those flavored waters? I think they're called bubbly.
Yes.
BUBL. Right. Well, this has got a bit of that about it, unfortunately. It's more. Don't get me wrong. It's not subtle like those bubblies are, where it's just a hint of whatever. This is a full-on fruity flavor. But again, sorry, I'm going to say it straight off the bat. If I'm wanting a beer, a nice cold beer, and get off of me, I've just been eaten by a big fly.
Covered in hives by the end of this.
I don't know if I'm immediately going to be saying, "Oh, this one's hitting the spot." It's a fruity drink.
If a friend drops it in front of you and you take a swig, you don't say, "Boy, that's a good beer there."
No, you don't. But it's made for a certain occasion, is it not? For certain people, I have to say.
I mean, yeah. I think they get the advertising there. It's got a nice big pink, colorful, the lime, the cactus on the back tells you all that mildly sweet, little bit tart. It's doing everything it says on the can.
It is.
I would like it on a hot day. I like like a Berliner Weiss or whatever.
Yep.
I think this would be the style if you went to Cologne, Germany. Primarily, this is what you would drink, like the Kolsch style. I think this is but not, maybe not as fruity. You'd have kind of a malty
Mm.
beverage that's yeah. So
Maybe that's what I'm
uh,
hoping for in the middle, because I feel like there's the, I guess, pear or fruity flavor up front, and then that sort of goes away, and there's this interesting echo in the middle where you notice that, oh, there's no bitter, there's no aftertaste, there's no malt, obviously, but then it just sort of tastes like that funny taste of emptiness, like a club soda or just kind of a sharp carbonated water with no
yeah.
flavor to it, and
Yes.
there's a gap, there's an obvious gap to me.
I'm wondering
Uh,
if they used like a real flavoring or an artificial.
Sometimes it tells you the. Oh, here we go. Contains barley, wheat, may contain rye and oats. Not
Doesn't
a
list
word.
anything about the prickly pear,
Doesn't
does
say
it?
a thing about cactus fruit. Nope.
The proofreader kind of failed, I guess.
none of us have had a prickly pear. I'm assuming. I mean, I've heard of it. I don't know what it is or what it looks like. Is it just a pear with prickles? Does it taste like a pear? Because this doesn't
No,
taste like a.
it's a cactus.
It's a type
Oh,
of
it's
cactus,
literally a
the
cactus.
prickly pear
Yeah, it's a type of
cactus.
Yeah.
And Ian,
I've
if
never knew.
I can,
Yes.
if I can drag you back to your thespian roots, you, at the very beginning of one play that we were both in the Wolfville area called August Osage County, which was all
Yes.
about Oklahoma, you had to rattle off. Part of the line was singing the "Here We Go Round," and instead of Mulberry Bush, you sang "Here We Go Round the
Pear.
Prickly Pear." And I remember every
That is-
single one of us in the production saying, "What's a prickly pear?" to each other. Why doesn't he just sing Mulberry Bush? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And you did it. And honestly, now, since it's Oklahoma, okay, you were actually talking about going around a cactus, and it's been 3.5 years, and that play finally makes sense to me.
Here we go around the prickly pear, the prickly pear, the prickly pear. Here we go around the prickly pear.
Yeah, you were the old
All
aging debaucherous genius
drunken,
author.
committed suicide. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. Now I remember it. Thank you very much. I didn't recall it until then. But there again, I can barely remember what happened 20 minutes ago.
I've been thinking
But
about,
I didn't
as
know
soon as I saw
Prickly Pear-
Prickly Pear, I've been thinking about that one play.
Wow.
The
Isn't that
longest.
something? So what? I mean, can you eat prickly pear?
Well,
Cactus?
Yeah, you sure can. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I
Check-
want
check
to.
out- Check out YouTube. Yeah, it's it's hard to get around the pricks, but once you get rid of the pricks, the food's pretty good.
I think that's what
No.
I say about
Sorry,
many grocery chains.
it's really
Yes.
that was
Once you get rid of-
like there was so many places you could go from that, and no one touched it. So that's
Yeah.
good.
Yes.
How
This
to
is the first
cut
time we're
and
working
eat.
together, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I went straight to Parliament Hill, but no one went.
Can I just say, I'm having a look at it and it's showing me pictures of identifying harvesting a cactus fruit, so the fruit of the prickly pear cactus fruit, and it looks a bit like a benign chestnut. If you could count, you can count the number of spiky bits on it on your two hands. There's for something about the size of a, I don't know, nectarine-ish. It's got about 10 spikes on it. I think we have chestnut trees up here. You need to bring a bit more to this particular game. First, you will need to get the gloschids, Glochid. I hope that's a glochid.
Mhm.
That would be the only way I'd want to refer to that. So you get the glochids off. It can be burned off over an open flame. This sounds like the most complicated fruit in the world. Removing the skin, cutting. So you got to cut the skin, and then you remove it, and then it's. So yeah, they would have said if there were actual prickly pear cactus fruit in here, because it seems really, really difficult to take one of these things and put it in a substance.
I want to see Cameron, who's from Tasmania, do that. The head brewer at Propeller. I'm sure that would be very entertaining. Although Tasmania, I guess there's probably worse things than a little cactus down there.
There's a couple, yeah.
Yeah. And Propeller do always hit the mark with me. I say always until until now. No, usually Propeller. I mean, they've been doing it for 30-odd years. They're the oldest brewery, are they not, in Nova Scotia, craft brewery, either them or Garrison. I always forget, one of the two. And so they should know their way around some recipes by now. This, for me, is unexciting. It's a summery, fruity, and I even hesitate to say the word beer because being a traditionalist, there's nothing in this that gives any indication that it's beer. So they still have to explain to me how this can be even come under the grand heading of beer. But I said very rarely they don't hit the mark. Their ESB is the best ESB in Nova Scotia as far as I'm concerned. I don't think there's anything that could touch it. The Nanaimo that they came out with the back end of last year, Ross, I've waxed lyrical about that. I've kept this one can for Keir since before Christmas because he said, oh, maybe I'll have that. And I've kept it in the cupboard. The temptation to drink this ever since has been almost too much for me because there's only one can of. I'm so hoping they do it again this year. They do some fantastic beers and their range has got so vast over the last 3 or 4 years. They are really a fabulous brewery. This one, unfortunately, doesn't do it for me, but it's not for me. It's not aimed at me, so I'm okay with that.
Yep, they're 6 weeks older than Garrison, but the oldest craft brewer in Nova Scotia right now is Paddy's up in the valley.
Oh, it is Paddy's.
You do know the story.
Paddy's. Yeah, Paddy's opened, I believe, in '95, and I think I'm trying to remember when Garrison. I should know Garrison and Propeller. They just had their anniversary, so it must have been 97, 98.
But Garrison and Propeller were selling out the door, and Paddy's was just brewing. So they started. So whenever Propeller and Garrison, the oldest in the commercial breweries, and Paddy says, wait. But then everyone kind of nips and bites back and forth to say who was first, who was last. Doesn't matter. It's all tasty.
That's the ones that are still open. There's been many that have fallen by the wayside, but
I was talking to friends with the collection of growlers, and they had some and said, "Oh, do you remember this old place?" And I said, "I wasn't drinking beer then. No, I'm sorry, I don't remember them." What gets me about this one, and I definitely have to give Propeller the credit for what I think is happening is the Radler fad. The love affair with Radlers was a few summers ago, and I think we're coming down the tail end of that. So what this beer, this entry is telling me is we're looking for that next new summer flavor that maybe everyone could pounce on, or maybe we're all going to have juicy ones, or it was very citrusy a couple of years ago. So it's not a challenge, but it's an exploration of what other fun summer flavors can we try. We can't just do Radlers year in, year out because we'll get bored. So I like that they're saying let's try this for a summer brew.
Yeah, I think the ready to drink market. I think they're just trying to give something for everyone.
They've done that.
You look at when you go to their cooler, they just don't have beer anymore. They also have those vodka drinks and seltzers and so they want to build a portfolio where they can go in and say, we have something for everybody, whether they like a beer or a seltzer or they're a low carb kind of a drinker.
A number of places are doing that. It was kind of nice when my wife won tickets to this cider festival that happened during the Annapolis the Apple Blossom Festival. So this past Friday we went into Ciders and Sliders right up here in the valley, and it was all the cider, Lake City cider. There's a few out from Cape Breton. There's a bunch down. What was Chubbs was one that we were introduced to, I think. Is it? There's a bunch nearby. Many of them I'd never heard of, but sitting there right in the middle, there's actually Boxing Rock is right there, and they've got a few of their ciders on. And then Sea Level was over at another spot, and they'd brought in some of their ciders. So it's a number of them are doing that. Let's widen the market. Let's get everybody in the door. And you can't just say, if you go into the pub and you're like, oh, I don't like beer. Well, we've got nothing for you then. Not
root
really going
beer.
to work
Who
in
is
this
it that
market.
does the root beer thing? That's just inside the door every time I go to the SLC. Is that Propeller?
That's
Propeller does
Propeller
a,
as well.
they do
Yeah,
a
they do have a root
fantastic.
beer one. Yeah.
They did either
Yeah.
a ginger beer or it was some sort of ginger ale as well. But they did a couple of not even just like 0.1 beers, but they did sodas. They had a couple of
Yeah.
sodas that were available, and that was how I first learned their name because I was a child ish.
Todd, Todd, you're of a certain vintage, like myself.
Yes.
Um, and Ross would probably be the baby among the three of us at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
When did you first discover that you liked beer as opposed to Coors or Budweiser?
That's you know what I always try to think when it happened, but I used to go. There was real no distinction. It's like you kind of went and you got a bottle of beer, whether it was whatever, and there's some local stuff, and this whole kind of we were just talking before we started here, Ross and I, about kind of the culture and everything. But I used to go. There used to be a restaurant and brewery on Windmill Road in Dartmouth called Maritime Brewing, and they had like flights, and so I guess that was kind of my first real kind of going into a craft beer establishment, and they were way ahead of the scale. I think
Mm.
they were in the 90s, and they had an 80 hectoliter um, brewery, which is huge. I think it's bigger than anything we have right now.
Hmm.
So they built this, and it didn't work out, and
Oh,
I think the brewing equipment now I think it's up at Collective Arts in Hamilton. It went through a few owners. It went through Sapporo and trying to think of the craft beer place out west. Can't think of it right off, but I think Sapporo was the last one to own it, and they mothballed the plant and sold off all the equipment. So that was kind of the end of that
mm.
story. But kind of the beer that I can kind of say that kind of awoken me to craft beer and kind of said, wow, this is really something different was Revolution from Propeller.
Oh,
There
wow. Revolution.
It used to be called Russian Imperial Stout. I think it's just
Yeah,
Imperial Stout now.
yeah.
And I think they've changed the recipe slightly, or my taste buds are changing. I'm not sure. It seems to be a little different this
Yeah.
past year. But yeah,
Oh,
I tasted that and it's like, wow, this is like really, really good. Like, because it used to be you'd get a Labatt's Blue, and
And you
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 know,
struggle through. Oh, I'm drinking
I'm
beer, and you
yeah,
go,
I'm the
oh,
vintage. You when you turn 19, you picked a brand, and you picked up that 2-4 every Friday night, and you drank it through the weekend,
yeah.
and you did that forever until you died. So you were either a Labatt. I'm from New Brunswick, so you were a Labatt's Blue guy or a Moosehead guy. We didn't have Keiths or anything like that at
no,
the
down here
time.
you get. I still many of my friends are still diehard Schooner people.
Yeah.
Schooner, yeah,
Like, what are you doing drinking
that
that
was
craft beer? There's Schooner.
that's an old man's beer, isn't it? And I'm an old man, so I can say that.
Everyone tells me every time
Uh,
I
No,
pick. I think I've picked one. Someone says, "No, that's an old man's beer." They can't all be old man's beers. What am I supposed to have? Don't say Bud Light, you psychopath.
that's still fairly recently then, Todd. I was expecting it to be in the long distant past. It's still fairly recent
no,
that you were
it's
converted.
very recent. Yeah,
Ah, just
probably about you know well, less than 20 years ago. So
yeah.
probably we had this kind of resurgence or this big upswing in the early 2010s. Around 2013, 2014, we had like Boxing Rock and Big Spruce and Tatamagouche, like all kind of opened around the same time.
Mm.
And like we got this kind of excited feeling like something really cool is happening right in front of us. And
Yeah.
these beers were coming, and it was a totally different feeling than it is now, if you know what I mean. I know I had a brewer kind of, I said it doesn't feel the same anymore, and he kind of came aboard me and said, you need to get out more, but which is probably true, but
Well,
I
this
got
this is why the prickly pear. I like that. There's an evolution in that flavor, where it's not just we are gonna do the exact same thing as we've always done. It's and the imagination and the exploration of. I would have to say nearly every one of our 60 plus breweries in Nova Scotia, and I'm fairly certain the same thing's going on just outside in New Brunswick and in PEI. In fact, Ian says one of his favorite Nova Scotian beers that we had last Halloween was from PEI. Couldn't say enough about. Oh, where was that from? That was up Street. I think you really liked the Up Street one, the Grave Digger.
Gravedigger.
Oh,
yes,
it's just
fantastic
such
beer.
a singer. It's just amazing.
The best pumpkin spiced ale I've ever had ever. It was just head and shoulders above the rest of them. Following up on what you're saying, Ross. Yes, I'm not a lover of it, but I guess that's where I'm going with this. That when I arrived here in 2008, Todd, and walked into the local liquor store, it was a wasteland. There was nothing available other than, and we're going back 16 years, other than the usual domestic beers which they sold by the bucket load. So, so really, I can't be knocking anybody that wants to do something very different, because there's so much variety now. Ross, we've tried 300 beers and we've only scratching the surface, and we couldn't have done this even as recently as 10-15 years ago, because there was nothing available. There was still the big guys, like you say, the Propellers and the Paddies and the Garrisons, but that huge explosion in the early sort of 13, 14, 15 is and it's just revolutionized the whole industry here in Nova Scotia. Yeah. But it is a little bit worrying when you hear the slightly scary bits that a lot of them just can't make it. They say it might be a little bit of a bubble that might just be about to burst. And it's horrible to think that we can't return to the dark old days prior to the 2000s when there's nothing available, but surely maybe a happy medium where there is plenty of variety still, but maybe not at the same level that we got at the moment, where we are in heaven right now.
Yeah, I agree. It's back around there was always the portfolio they came out with. I have to say it was always the same. So they'd have an IPA, a pale ale, a porter, or a stout, and that was it. So it was about 3 or 4 beers they came out with. Maybe a red if they were really crazy.
Yeah.
So those were the 4 beers. So really, and then all of a sudden, they started these adjuncts and different things. Lately it's been kind of the IPA. They had, it was always kind of just standard IPA, but now there's, the hazy and the all these different kind of these
the black
things
IPA,
that look like orange juice.
A number of the double IPAs coming out.
Yeah. So
I hate to right on the heels of such creativity and incredible evolution and stretching of everything, but sadly our middle one, the 5% Boxing Rock, the Puck Off Blonde Ale, this one threw me off because a year ago we tried the Puck Off Lager. So did they decide let's make one of two things happened, I'm assuming. Someone really liked the name Puck Off and just said, well, we'll the lagered ale, we're done with that, but let's just call our blonde ale that. Or they realized that the lagered ale was tasting more like a blonde, or it was made more like a blonde, and they just said, well, okay, it's that now. But
it's interesting.
In searching on Boxing Rock's site, they did used to have a blonde before this one in years past, and it was like what was it? It was a lobster blonde, and it was called the Shuck Off Blonde.
Yeah. I think they still make that.
There's a big faux pas coming up here. Remember, Ross, I said earlier on, Rebecca's going off to get the beer for me because that's the only one I didn't have.
Yeah.
Oh God. She brought back the rig off.
This was the one time I didn't do a visual check of all the beers.
Oh my God, Rebecca.
She was trying to be polite.
That's the joke that she played on me when I walked through the doorway earlier on. She did get me. She said, it's a good way to spend $5.50 and get 2 beers. So there we go.
We've had the frig off at one point, I think.
So Ross, it's interesting because I thought I was having a seniors moment because I was sure that it wasn't blonde before. So they must have changed it.
I'm
It slipped by me.
Yeah, I'm unsure. The puck off lagered ale, if you poke your head around the corner, you can still buy a 6-pack of the puck off lager. But over
Okay.
here in the other corner is the puck off blonde, and it's kind of the same bluish can. Now, to be even more sneaky, they don't write a thing on the can. Nothing's there. However, if you find them on Instagram, I finally had to find this. That's not on their website yet. So finally available at the NS at the LC, and it does say Canadian Brewing Awards. Yeah, so it's announced. This is them announcing it. So they took it to the Canadian Brewing Awards. It won gold for
Wow.
blonde ale or something. It was something in the style. It was like a North American lager or blonde ale. I forget what the exact category was. But the description comes with the Stanley Cup Finals coming. It's the perfect time to enjoy our gold medal winning puck off blonde ale. Light, crisp, and refreshing. You found your perfect pairing for a pepperoni pizza, mountain of nachos, a big bag of salty chips, or even an order of fish and chips. Not a lot of description in there, but just saying what you should eat it with. But this is the winner. This was the gold winner, one of the winners that got Boxing Rock the Brewery of the Year with their 3 gold medals.
Gosh.
Out there.
So Ross, I'm looking at the Boxing Rock site right now, and they have a blue can. It's different than the one we have, but it's called Puck Off Lagered Ale, and it says Lagered Ale on it in big letters.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see the blonde ale at all.
It's not on their site. It's on their Instagram account. The deep dive for some of these descriptions has honestly become a little bit annoying, but we chalk it up to the fact that, what's a polite way of saying Nova Scotianers aren't good at the internet?
They're old.
I mean, we're not. We get some young brewers and staff members and such. I've talked to some people that claim to be the social media coordinator for the brewery, and I think, okay, good, dragging yourselves, kicking and screaming into the 21st century, well done, but some of the time, just trying to find a little bit of information about your brewery and the beers online is... Ooh. I envy you for getting up to date messages. Schoolhouse is reaching out saying we got a new one. I'd love to be on that mailing list. Actually, I probably could just go be on the mailing list, couldn't I?
At the risk of stating the blindingly bloody obvious, this smells like beer to me, whereas the other one really.
No,
this
we've definitely hit beer.
smells like an ale.
There.
Or a
That's
blonde ale.
Yes, that's the stuff.
Yes.
Got the Boxing Rock at the front of it. No, the head disappeared. It's not doing the.
It went, did it?
But it smells lovely.
It really does.
That is that golden, somewhere in between. There's a hint of a bitter, but most of a malt, and then somewhere it crashes in the middle, and it becomes this beautiful golden nectar kind of.
It smells like a maltier pale ale out of the can.
I have come to appreciate a good blonde, and if you tell me that you're a gold medal winning blonde out in Upper Canada, then
be careful. Do you remember the bronze medal from last week that didn't blow our heads off, did it? At the end of the day,
it didn't quite impress, but I'm hoping that this one will. So, Todd, where are you landing on your seniors moment for whether this is a lager or whether this is a blonde? I think they just used the name twice, and fine.
Yeah, it seems like they may have. Oh, you know what? No puck off. I'm looking at the NSLC site now because inquiring minds want to know, and they're both listed under Boxing Rock. So they have a puck off blonde ale, which is kind of the new can. Like, this is really nice. But they also have the old blue lagered ale. So I don't know. We'll have to reach out to Henry.
Because we tried the
It's
puck off lager. I think we compared some lagers, and it was okay. It was fine. But I have come to appreciate a really good blonde ale, so I'm really looking forward to this, and just hoping that it does not just taste like a recanned lager.
I've struggled though with the blurring of lines between some of the beer styles, namely the pilsners, lagers, blondes, pale ales. There is so much blurring of lines now, but they're almost become indiscernible from another. You could try a Kolsch and it would taste, we'd be like, that's very close to the pilsner that we had, or the pilsner is very close to the so it wouldn't even surprise me. It would surprise me, but this is boxing. The gold winning brewer, maybe they said, hang on a minute, maybe this isn't so much a lager ale, maybe it's a pale ale. They might not have done very much to it at all. Might have just stuck it in a can and said, it's just a blonde ale at the end of the day.
This is just a lager ale with lager crossed out and blonde written in crayon.
They just white out the can and then stick another beer in it. It's the same beer.
How much did that cost in productivity? Okay,
well, it's too bad. We should have picked up both cans and did a side-by-side on it. Maybe you can do that in your next episode.
Says the person who suggested the 7.6% beer. Just get another can of beer. Just add some to it. Anyway, cheers.
Cheers. We do see that from time to time. I've noticed in some of the breweries, locally at least. Over time, a beer kind of morphs into something else because of
the addition of an ingredient, which kind of sways it into another territory.
Cerberus was always a favorite of mine because you kind of never knew what you were going to get year from year.
I've heard that.
The recipe. Well, I don't think it changed much from last year to this year, but it used to change quite a bit. Like, if I think, I think the first year I bought it, it always used to come out during craft beer month, which used to be May. It was in a bomber bottle, the 650 ml. Drink it and fall asleep.
Mm-hmm.
It came out in that, and it tasted radically different each year it came out because, I guess this was kind of Big Spruce's brainchild, and I think Tatamagouche was always one of the other partners. But Cerberus, of course, is a three-headed dog, so they always had three partners. So they used to kind of pick. There was North one year and Church, and I'm trying to think who else.
Well, I guess that makes a bit of sense as to why
Propeller.
It would taste so much different.
Yeah, so I think they kind of collaborated and changed the recipe a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of settled down now. I don't find it changes a whole lot anymore.
I kind of like that, and that was one of the things that brought me to craft beer is when I spent a lot of time in Wolfville, so Patty's became my big introduction to craft beer, and we'd say, "Oh, have you tried the pumpkin ale this year? Almost as good as 2 years ago, but a lot better than last year." And that's how you talked. It's just when it was the batch was made and they tried something different, it was a little bit crazy. And part of me, at the same time, getting to know people, and they were into the wine industry, and they'd all say, "Oh, well, I bought the 2012 because the 2013 wasn't very good at all. So I've got a bottle of 2012."
Yes.
Sorry, when I talk about wine, I put on a stupid British accent, but just to sound immensely foppish and pretentious about the wine industry, you can tell that I have a lot of respect for it. But you don't collect years of beer, despite the fact that we accidentally drink beer we've been keeping for a year and a half, and it still tastes delicious.
Yeah,
which I love. But I wish you could do that. I wish you could say, "Oh, I'd put a bottle of 2021's pumpkin ale against the 2022, but I'd have I've still got a can of Cerberus from 5 years ago, and it's the good one." It would be kind of fun.
That's probably going to be the benefit of running a nano or a microbrewery, in that they can turn it over and they can kick out a batch and then get feedback, and as a result of that, they can change their recipe a little bit and try other things, because there are locals that are really willing to do that. Whereas, of course, the old school, that they've used the same recipe for 100 years, they're never going to change it because they know it still sells, and why would they? Don't mess with the classic kind of feel. But at least then craft breweries, and you, Ross, tomorrow you are putting on your first batch, are you not, of home-brewed craft ale with avec moi.
Yeah.
Then you're going to find that you're going to mess around with it as well. You're going to think this tastes good, but maybe I'll get the same thing and I'll just mess around with it and tinker with it from there, and maybe make it sweeter next time, or a little more hoppy, or a little darker, or whatever. And you
Yeah.
can do that with a small batch.
I know, but
Because there are people out there that will always like to try your latest offering, and the nanos and the micros are doing that.
I'm more curious than I am experimental. I think I'm experimental in the kitchen, but when it comes, and I feel like craft beer making, even just a box making homebrew, is more of the chemistry side of things. That's more like baking. When I'm baking, I follow the recipe perfectly because that's chemistry, and I don't understand chemistry. But when you're just adding spices to chicken breasts, then that's just cooking, and that's easy. It's all whatever you feel like that night. No, you know what, this could use some more hot sauce. Sploosh, there you go. And I don't think you can do that with either baking or brew making, because they are very, very much about the chemistry. So I am curious about as many beers as possible, but I don't think I'm going to be experimental. Maybe I will be later, in my 80s and 90s when I've finally gotten up the courage to start making my own beer and calling it as thus.
What do you think of this gold medal winning Puck-Off Blonde Ale from Boxing Rock?
It is not a lager.
No, I have to say, full disclosure, I'm not a blonde fan, but I do like this. I'm not really a fan of kind of the malty ales, but this one's very good. I really like it.
What caught me is immediately upon drinking it, it reminded me of my two favorite blondes, actually. And it reminded
Let me
me
guess,
more
9 Box Dirty Blonde
is second place, but top number one is the Marigold Blonde Ale from Sober Island. It is just the smoothest, tastiest golden beer I have ever had. And this comes close, near as almost makes no difference. It comes so close to the Marigold, and that's what made me happy. I said, this tastes just like my favorite blonde ale that I found. Because I spent a lot of time, and we tried some of the other blonde ales and I thought, these are, I don't, thumbs off with that. And finding... It was the same thing that we had with, I don't really like IPAs. You don't until you find the really, really good ones. And then you think, wait a minute. This door opens to, hold on. It wasn't supposed to taste like all that other rubbish. And there was a couple of blonde ales that I tried. And I finally said, I get, I think, what this is supposed to do. And it slightly validates me even more that this one, that is so close to my absolute favorite blonde ale, won the prize. So I think, good. The blonde ale that's supposed to win is the one that I like. Yay. I'm fine with that. Go taste buds.
You think beers might sell? You're a big one for the can art, Ross. You've admitted as much. I think also beers do sell a little bit on their name. So let's not beat around the bush here. It's a pun, a play on words, a Puck-Off, and also the dirty blonde, that horrible term that you hate so much. That just happens to be your second big. It does sell beers. I know in the UK. I mean, there's some of the names in Australia, some of the names of the craft beers are just, and people, I'm sure, just buy them. Gives a pint of your big hairy dog's bollocks because I want to try it out. Some of them have got just ridiculous names because they want to shock and get you to try their beer.
I argue there's a difference between naming something silly or even, mildly in poor taste, the big hairy dog's bollocks. But the thing about the big hairy dog's bollocks, it's not doing anything negative to another group. So what if there was what if there was a brown ale served in Nottingham, England, at one of the breweries, and it was called the Dumb Irishman? Probably crazy popular. People would come from miles about, I gotta come try the Dumb Irishman because it pisses off. And someone sort of said, and then you'd get someone coming in with the protest sign and no news is, or there's no such thing as bad press because it gets everybody in here, and you've all got an ale called the Dumb Irishman. That's the one that I would have an issue with, because you've named it something quote unquote silly, but you're marginalizing a group of existing people. The big
sense.
hairy dog's bollocks, I don't think the dogs are upset. They're probably fine. And it's funny and everyone can have a laugh. And it's one of those, oh, you're too sensitive for that joke. And you can argue about that. But when it marginalizes a group, and I guess I finally found what my problem is with the dirty blonde and how it's up on the ads and the billboard saying everyone loves a dirty blonde. And you're thinking,
Yeah.
The funny story about that, if you can believe the funny story, is they used to have a massive amount of sales of people just coming in to get the T-shirts. Not even beer lovers. A lot of women from work. Everybody loves a dirty blonde from Dartmouth was one of their T-shirts they used to sell before they cleaned it up. They couldn't keep that shirt on the shelf. And
marketing.
Then the boycott came. Boycott Nine Locks. Of course, we know Nine Locks is the biggest craft brewer in Nova Scotia now, and their flagship beer is Dirty Blonde. It outsold every beer in the NSLC when the boycott started. So, I guess people vote with their wallets and their feet.
All I'm saying is I don't have to agree with everybody else.
No,
that was where I landed.
So, although on this occasion, at least that beer is bloody good.
It is.
That might be another reason why it sells so well, because it is a fabulous blonde ale.
It is, I guess. Money talks and bullshit walks, right? So
because if it just tasted like a fart in a wheelbarrow, I don't think it would have sold quite as well.
Yeah, I was kind of on the fence about the whole thing, so I'm kind of glad it's behind now.
It's the weirdest thing where, as a straight white aging male, there's nothing worse. The worst thing about us is when we choose to not apply our straight white aging male opinions to things. We sit back and get all smug about it and says, well, I didn't add my opinion to that, so that makes me the best of the straight white smug aging males. Thank you very much, and I deserve credit for that.
I'll bring that up at the next meeting.
I didn't do my usual. I didn't keep just a little bit of the prickly pear back. And I'm going to drink all this blonde ale. There doesn't seem any point, does there? Because they're three totally different beers, and no. So normally we do compare at the end, Todd. We'd like to keep a couple of fingers of beer at the end of it so we can go back to the other one. But it's pointless this evening because they're so different.
Yeah.
We're fine with that. I am a little bit excited. Yes, I already finished my blonde ale. It was that was delightful. I'm so happy that and not that the puck off the lagered ale also rather good for a lager, but well done. Definitely deserving of a gold medal.
Yeah, delightful.
I'm looking.
Cheers to Bachner.
I've got my new unfiltered glass that I picked up while I was in there to pick up this next one.
Ooh. So rounded. It's the mouth feel on it is like I want more of it now. I've just finished it.
I'd have another one of those pretty darn quick.
Absolutely, in a heartbeat.
We haven't spoken enough. I mean, Todd's been here. We've been talking about beers and whatnot, but we haven't spoken enough about the Maritime Beer Report, because we talked about your entry into the craft beer world, but did that lead immediately to just a desire to describe it or to introduce others? Is it kind of this is so good let's send the invite out there? How did this become a mouthpiece for you?
Well, it was kind of an evolution. I think I was telling you before we started, I was kind of on something very similar to this every Friday evening. It was a podcast or a video podcast. And we used to get together and just talk about whatever, sports or news or but we were drinking a beer and kind of did our cheers. So we used to talk about little bit around craft beer too. We talked about, new breweries opening or beers or whatever. So um, we kind of used to talk about it a little bit. Then the show went on hiatus. The guy who had the podcast, he had a baby, or his wife had a baby, and so he put the show on hiatus. So I just, well, you know what? Maybe I'll just find the beers of the week and just talk about it on YouTube at the time, and then it was kind of just brought over as a podcast. And I don't even know if the podcast even exists out there. I think my host, I don't think I paid them, so they probably deleted them all. But that kind of got me into, and then writing about it and talking about it and visiting, and the more I got into the kind of the culture and the personalities and kind of what was surrounding, because every brewery is different. Everybody has a different kind of route they got into craft beer and became a brewer. Some were more professional than others. Like the last one we're going to try here, he's professionally trained. He went to I think the United States and learned how to brew. But then you have other guys, like Hal Bay. A lot of these guys, they kind of learned as they weren't really trained, but they trained themselves, and they built these breweries up, and it was just, it fascinated me just to, and like I say, I really enjoyed the culture and the people. I found kind of craft brewing in general, it still is. It's very accepting. You look at something like Good Robot, a lot of, like, all the breweries really are safe space for anybody to go into, no matter kind of what journey you're taking through life, or who you are, or what you support. Um, I found that was a really unique aspect of craft brewing, because things are a lot better now, than I think. I think when I started work 45 years ago or so, um, what it was, the girly, the nudie calendars and the language, and if anybody was different, they were bullied, and that was fine. That was just work.
Just
That
what
was
was going
Monday
on.
morning. so
Yeah.
so now where we are today is completely different. But the craft brewing, when that came along, it was kind of revolutionary. I felt that it was just a different place to go and be accepted.
What specifically about the going and being accepted? I think I mentioned this to Ian. I did a little bit of a trek. Oddly enough, I had to take my daughter to a soccer game in Sydney, Cape Breton, and I tried to dot my return, stopping at a bunch of different breweries. And one of the ones I stopped at was Truro Brewing Company, just right there in the downtown
Yeah.
of Truro. And I walked in there, and I have never felt like I was in a more inclusive, open-minded, just the artwork, the posters, the
Yeah.
decorations, the entire room just oozed welcome, no matter
Yeah.
who you are, no matter what's going on. And again, I often have to dot that with a bit of a hello, I'm a straight white male, so walking into your establishment, I don't need preferential treatment. But just I love looking around and saying, oh, if I was something else, I would feel just as at home here. And it kind of turns you into, I don't know how to describe it, more of
Yeah.
a expansive suddenly the limits are endless. You could say, oh, I don't it I it's not that I'm not a straight white male in this place, but I could feel that isn't my even part of my identity as I come in here. I don't even
Yeah.
know how to describe it, but I felt
You're
so warm.
you're more insignificant than you believed you were, maybe,
That was it.
and more a part of the world.
Comfortably insignificant
Yeah.
was how I
I've
felt.
been
It
very
was a lovely
fortunate to
feeling.
travel a little bit, and you feel like that when you travel too.
Hmm.
I've been to Turkey and Nicaragua and places like this where people are incredibly poor. Like Nicaragua is the second poorest nation in the Western Hemisphere, but you're accepted. You go in, they're happy to see you. They offer you stuff they don't even have for themselves. And you feel like, as a Canadian and as somebody who's very privileged, it's just like this is just unbelievable that I'm just a small little speck on this big earth. That there's like people, that are just living their lives and where was I going with this? Yeah, so yeah, Truro is awesome. I went up to them at the beer fest. I said, "Are you that gay bar?" Because they get that all the time. People walk in. Is this the gay
Really?
bar? Yeah,
Aw.
or yeah. No, they love it. They love
Oh, do
it.
they?
It's hilarious.
Hell
Yeah, it's
yes.
hilarious to them.
Pull up a
Yeah, so
stool.
yeah, they laughed, and I told them who I was and that, and yeah, it was great. They have some good beer, and their label art's pretty good.
Hmm.
I got one place for you to look for, Ross, if you're a label art guy. There's a brewery in northern New Brunswick called Novum Boreas.
How north?
They're yeah,
I've heard of them.
yeah, you can get it at the Moncton liquor store if you're ever kind of in that area.
Okay, yeah.
Their
Probably
their
why.
label their labels are like next level. Like
Yeah.
yeah,
I,
it's kind of like when you found Pink Floyd 50 years ago. It's like, wow, man, look at this. Yeah, what do they call those? The
I'm a big
sleeves.
animation fan, so I feel like Good Robot is scratching my itch on the Nova Scotia level
Yeah,
right now. There's so much, and they have really complicated art in every single one, and it's a little bit different, and I do
yeah,
love that. But
awesome.
we also we compliment well, Propeller for one, and Breton do the same thing where it's a consistency but a uniqueness. And I feel like this next one we're about to look at right here, hey, there's a perfect segue straight into the unfiltered brewing where there's a consistency. Black can, there's the label, but each one is that little different color. So the double orange ale, the Citra Dippa, is, you guessed it, orange. So the logo, which I immediately go back to all of my years growing up as a child, learning all the different poison labels. This tells me that this can will explode if I leave it near heat for very long. But is it a hop flying in from the corner? It's a triangle with some sort of exploding like a coming in
And
like
then
a meteor.
it's an explosion of hops, my friend.
Explosion of hops. I immediately regret my decision, but
I love them. Can you imagine? Let's just harken back about a year and a half, Ross. When we went, oh my God, we're going to try a double IPA this evening. We hate no, we don't hate. We don't really like IPAs that much. This is going to be twice as bad as an IPA because it's double IPA, and surely it follows that that's going to be twice as bad. And we tried 2 double IPAs for the first time, sort of 18 months, 2 years ago, and we were both left feeling, oh, wait a second.
yeah,
Wait a second. What on earth is this? Why is this smoother, tastier, easier to drink for us rather than turning our faces inside out? It was black magic.
it was
And
game
every single
changing
double
for us.
IPA we've had, absolutely every single one we've had ever since, we were like, this is our IPA.
Mm.
This is where Ross and I sit in the IPA gamut. It's not with your smashes. It's not with the hophead IPAs that is so popular. It might just be not quite so popular now as it was maybe a couple of years ago. But double IPAs are quite something, are they, Ross?
It absolutely true, and we have tried it a number, and it even gave us the confidence to, on more than one occasion now, I think we've had our triple IPA night. We have tried
Yes.
those,
Yes.
and
Yes.
it got even stranger. I think we mostly just kind of questioned our sanity at that point because we tried 2 triple IPAs and said, this is the smoothest thing that we have tasted.
Doesn't make
this is
sense.
gorgeous. What is
Doesn't make
happening? I
sense.
thought triple of an IPA would mean this is going to be 3 times as whatever an
Like chewing on a
IPA
pine
is,
tree.
and
Yeah.
it hits so differently. Having said that, there is a hop smell coming off of this, but it's not that offensive hop. We've kind of
No,
learned there's now a bit of
it's
a
weird.
there's a tasty hop happening.
It was explained to us, wasn't it, why the malt and hop balance, but in the double IPAs is far more.
Yep.
Help me out here, Todd, if you can, please. it's a far more smooth taste to it. It doesn't have the bitterness and the straightforward citrusy hoppiness that a single IPA has, because of the increase in the amount of malt that certainly balances the whole drink out, and it's so much easier for you and I to drink, even though it's often about 2% stronger. So there is a downside.
Yeah, it's interesting. I used to really look at the IBUs, the international bittering units on beers,
Yeah.
and then I just kind of gave up because it really didn't make any sense to me anymore. Because you have something like this, excuse me, which is like 100 plus, excuse me, IBUs. Whereas the blonde we had was maybe 0, or was
Bit less.
very low.
True.
So, but as it went up, it was like 100 plus. I'm going to be chewing on a pine tree, but that's not the case, is it? It's
smooth.
So anyways, it kind of became kind of meaningless to me.
We keep trying to learn how to go about that with the IBU sometimes, and there's a few other measurements in there. But I do get to say, because on the can there is no description, so I'll tell you I'll tell you what it says over here on I'll edit myself here. So the uneffingfiltered.com is the name of Unfiltered site, and I love that. But on their site, within their shop, the Double Orange Ale, Double IPA, 7.5% ABV, the description of the beer is as follows. No oranges were harmed in the making of this product.
Phew.
Goodness.
So if you're if you're Floridian focused, I think I can get all of it. Oh, this is obviously a 16-ounce glass. It doesn't quite fit the whole thing. This is my issue with all the breweries. They sell you a 16-ounce glass and then a 473 milliliter can, and you can't get your whole drink in there. But we can also thank Mr. Todd Beal for this one, because when I asked him if he had a favorite beer or something that he liked right now, he said, you got to get the Double Orange Dipper, because that's my favorite at the moment.
Oh, so this is thanks to you then, Todd. All this one is your choice.
You're welcome, or I'm sorry, depending.
This was the one. This is it. Cheers.
Cheers. Santé. Oh, it's so smooth. It's ridiculously smooth. How is that possible? It's not doing... Oh, God.
I love the brewer.
This is it.
It's a creamsicle.
There's a tang, though. There's a bit of a sharp. And that sharp, hopefully, I like that, because it's a reminder that, hey, guess what? I'm a 7.5. Slow down. Because we sometimes have one, and they're 8.1%, these doubles and triples and things like that. And we'll just make it really smooth. No. Don't make it really smooth, or I will fall over when I head for the bathroom in about 10 minutes. You need to let me know what I'm... there's still... the zest. The zest is still there.
But it's a cream... It's creamy, Ross. It's so smooth. It's like a... Like I was saying that, like a creamsicle. This is ridiculous.
Okay.
I love those Citra hops. Yeah, one of my favorite hops.
We've had the odd Citra hop one before, but I don't say it never really hit like this. This is...
Yeah. So Citra Mosaic is another one I really like, and I kind of like the New World ones, the ones from New Zealand. Yeah, they're very good too.
Gosh, I've got to keep some of this back for Rebecca. I can't just drown this. I've got to take her a couple of mouthfuls in.
Don't drown a 7.5 in the best of times.
Oh my God, that's so good. You weren't wrong.
Oh, that's very smooth. There's the sharp reminder of the percentage that brings in the hop, but it disguises the hop bitterness with an orange zest. There's so much orange in here, but it's also not just like a flat orange juice or something. It's the zest is at the edges around the outside of it.
Yeah, so that's it's a really good beer to have with your breakfast. Little this with your cornflakes, and you're all set for work or a nap.
I would probably refer to that as the Julie Andrews breakfast, perhaps. diet pills and cigarettes and this. They would certainly all go pretty well together, I think.
Eat cold and drink soon, it says. I wouldn't have this particularly cold.
It also
says...
No,
mine are kind of cool, but I wouldn't say cold.
Yeah.
That's where I kind of like to drink it. Sometimes I often take quite a while to drink a beer, and I find the experience really changes as the beer. That's really a good thing to do. I think, like with a stout or something, the experience you have at the beginning and at the end are totally different. In the middle, different again.
That often comes down to the serving temperature. And my story that I cling to is I thought I found a very interesting stout that was on a guest tap at one point at an establishment, and they served it to me, and it was ice cold. And I spent 75 minutes just walking around the establishment, holding it with my two hands to try to give it a little bit of body heat and temperature to bring it up to something like it. Because when I tasted it ice cold straight out of the tap, there was nothing. It was tap water. So I've mentioned this, but no one's really, they're not into the temperature serving just yet, which is why one of my favorite places to drink beer is here under my own conditions, where I can keep beer at a 5 to 10-ish, maybe 11 degree if I'm really feeling good kind of world, but not.
I don't tend to drink mine. It doesn't last all that long, Todd, to be honest, to get a great deal of flavor. The only experience I've had of that is when I fall asleep halfway through my pint, wake up the next morning and think, oh yeah, I haven't finished that, and I'll finish it off before I have my breakfast. And then it tastes a bit different. And these things are pestering me now. I don't know if you can see them in front of they're big and they're hairy. These Kenyan mosquitoes are bigger than the Nova Scotian. What would you?
Seems like what you're dealing with is some Tasmanian tarantulas there, like maybe a bird-eating spider or.
No, they are big. Go away. Go away.
It's a good thing you're not dealing with any Nova Scotian June bugs right now. I can say that.
Are they coming?
They're here.
Are they here? Are they here?
Yep.
About a week.
Yeah.
Week and a half.
Yeah. My friend's been out collecting them to make his. He likes to put them on his salad.
Really? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are they chewy?
Said it's great for protein.
I bet.
He roasts them. Yeah.
So
he roasts them before.
So is bacon bits. And
I'm with you. I like the bacon.
Yeah, they haven't crawled over the underside of your car before you eat them.
Yeah.
Bacon bits stay in the package and then go in the salad, like proper food. What is? That's kind of odd. Yeah.
There is some citronella.
So you don't collect dandelions either?
My son. Oh, here's where you mentioned that your friend, the podcast stopped because your friend had a baby.
Yeah.
So about a year ago, a little over a year ago, in February, this podcast took a hiatus of 1 week because my son was born. But there's
well done, sir.
Very little stopping. I think he was born the Tuesday morning. So we were talking about it on that episode. I was actually editing that one recently. And Ian says to me during this, my son is 6.5 days old and I'm here doing a beer review. And Ian says, you couldn't have done an episode that night? And I said, I thought about it. And I basically decided that I can't do it because my wife, maybe not right now, but she will definitely kill me very soon if I try to have this episode.
I think
it'll be
you
a
just
slow
said
death.
6.5 days. I think you actually meant 6.5 hours old before you were doing
Well,
it.
and that was it. We were in fact we were still in the hospital. That's right. We were still in the hospital. And I was thinking to myself, I could run home and get my laptop. And then we could I could bring a couple of beers from home. I
Yeah.
could sneak them in the hospital and I could do
Yeah,
a
you could
beer
go in the
review
chapel.
Yeah.
It's pretty quiet.
most of the
If
time.
you had had twins, you could have done a double IPA
Mm,
review that you.
that would have been a good
Oh,
theme.
wow.
Would have been a good theme.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, it would have.
it didn't kill our podcast, but I don't know if that just means that we're crazy, committed, or
That's
definitely
funny.
slightly insane.
This is the citronella candle that Rebecca brought out, which is not doing anything to the mosquitoes. In fact, they're loving it.
Mm.
Seems to be giving my already orange double IPA an even more orangey hue, and my face has gone mango coloured, and
There
it's
was
I thought maybe you were by a fire or something. I thought maybe you had a propane fireplace because
That
you
might
got
be
all orangey.
you think so? That's
have you
just a
not turned
candle.
on maybe one of those salt lamps that you get? Is that delightful?
A salt lamp? Oh,
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
That pinkish
uh,
orangey color.
Himalayan.
There was
Yeah, yeah,
only
yeah. No.
one glass that I could buy at Unfiltered, and it's this shape, the bourbon tulip. I forget what this one's called, but
That would be the perfect glass to have what you've got in it, because it is very much a Belgian lambic bitter kind of
yes,
glass.
I
You
feel
drink-
like it's really making
drink
it.
the Belgian.
It's helping it hit
Trappist.
home.
A Trappist monetary beer you would drink out of that, and this
Mm.
is the same strength. So I think if you didn't just chance upon it, mate, you used that very, very strategically. And I don't know how it works, but by all accounts, you're supposed to be getting most of the flavor from it. I don't know how it works. It's science, beer science.
Well, it tastes
Kind of, yeah. It traps the aroma too, so you get a really good snout full of the aroma as you drink.
That's certainly happening. But I feel like
'Cause it
there's a delightful, and when was the last time you said bouquet? But there is a bouquet coming off of this one.
Oh,
And
it's amazing.
oh,
Yeah. If this didn't, the IPA categories in the recent Canadian Craft Brewing Awards, does it literally say IPA, single IPA, double IPA, triple IPA, and all of the rest of them? Because if this wasn't featured as a in the double IPA category, I'd be quite surprised.
what an
I don't
excellent.
think they enter contests. They're very specific. They don't do shows. You won't find them in the NSLC, so they're very very insular.
Okay,
Is
so
that the
you
word?
have to submit your
Yes,
entry in the first place to even be
and
considered.
pay a fee, a big fee.
Okay,
It
okay.
was. I was into Wayfarer's Ale just up here in Port Williams, and we were talking about it. How they didn't go, but they had just recently changed hands, so the finances of the operation were under.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
It was so Wayfarer's Ale Society has always been done by a group, like a sort of a board. But who was heading? How I describe it is who was heading the ship before has taken a bit of a backseat. Said, I don't really head the ship anymore. So they've sort of almost shifted the circle of board and everything, and a different couple of heads are now steering the ship. And they've,
Interesting.
in their words, tweaked a couple of the recipes, and I am now on board with where their tweaks have gone. In fact, we're hoping to talk to them in a couple of upcoming weeks. Oh, here we go.
They have a beautiful brewery.
And
it's a wonderful brewery. Yeah, absolutely beautiful looking. Right over the river there, just about a mile from, not even about half a mile from you, isn't it, Russ?
about 15-minute walk. But they mentioned how it's $100 or a couple $100 per entry to even get your entry considered.
It's not cheap.
No. So
Right.
American style India Pale Ale. That was the gold for Boxing Rock. New England style India Pale Ale. The gold went to British Columbia. Nothing for Nova Scotia there. Session India Pale Ale. BC. American Style, Imperial India Pale Ale, Alberta, and then the bronze medal went to the Meltdown Manor Double IPA from the brewery by Quinn's, and it was the first time that
Oh,
I've heard of this
the Quinn.
place. Quinn's.
Yes, you mentioned
Oh,
that last week.
yeah.
That's right. It's
They-
Quinn's is
they-
cool. I like
they've-
it. I've been there several times.
Flown under my radar, and I need to research and get a little bit of that kind of thing. But those were
But
what seemed to
food's
be the
good,
India
too.
Pale Ale styles.
Yeah. Well, Todd, if you're in with the guy that brews this stuff, the unfiltered chap, give him my
High five.
best, because this is bloody delicious. And if he doesn't enter this, if he can come up with a couple of $100, maybe I'll give him a fiver towards it. This is delicious.
There you go.
Absolute-
Let's
Yes.
crowdsource next year's Nova Scotia entries. We'll get a Kickstarter. We'll get several Patreons going, and let's just send all of our favorites to the Maritime. Well, not to the Canadian Brewery Awards. I wish I knew, because I think they happened in Halifax 3 years ago.
Last year.
2 years ago. So Hamilton this year, last year was here. Might take a little while, but if it came back to, say, Moncton, Fredericton.
This is my favorite for the night. There's no denying it, because it's just
that's
so
awesome.
So
good.
smooth.
The puck
Glad to hear that.
I really enjoyed as well. It's a fabulous blonde
I
ale.
know we had some great stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's no point in comparing them, but but the Prickly Pear is aimed at someone else,
Did what
and
was
I'm
on
sure
the
it's going
can.
to hit him.
Just saying.
Yeah, it did that. It did that. It refreshed me. I could probably have 5 or 6 of those and then not want any more. I'm going to take my orange beer and I'm going to skedaddle out of here. I'm going to leave the candle going. I don't know what bird that is. What birds do they have out here in Kenya?
Annoying. That is an annoying bird, is what you've got there.
Can you hear it?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm going to
Yes,
go and
we
kill
can.
it. I'm out of here. Good night, Todd. Nice to meet you.
Yes, nice to meet you, Ian. Well, thanks for inviting me, Ross.
Well, I'm so glad that you could make the time to be a part of our funny, silly little show. This is what we do on a weekly basis. We've been here now. Oh, I'm trying to remember now how many hundreds of episodes. I think we're at 160 something weeks strong, with only 2 breaks. One to go on my honeymoon and one for my son to be born. That's the.
You are dedicated and.
The way I put it, and this was why my question was to you, why the words out there to invite. It's and I feel like it's an invitation. When I started tasting craft beer, my initial response was, why isn't the entire province drinking this all the time? I keep coming down to, I still do not understand where I watch a gentleman walking into the NSLC and he walks out with the huge case of Bud Light, and I just want to look at him and say, do you know, can I point something out? There's a case of Toller Gold in there that's made locally, tastes better, and it's $1 cheaper.
Go figure.
I'm not telling you what to do, but I don't get it. So the plan and the hope and everything has always been to, if I can just keep describing things, that's it. I just want to describe things, and I want to help everyone find their favorite beer that they're looking for. And there's a tiny little piece of me that feels like I missed out. You have already found your favorite beer, and you're right.
Favorite beer so far.
So far, that's true. But you did say that you don't like the malty ones, so I won't try to sell you on those ones. But Todd, I want to thank you so much for being here and being a part of this. I want to thank
my pleasure. It was fun.
Ian for being here, my co-host, as always. And you can catch us weekly here, 8 p.m. on Tuesday nights, and we broadcast live on the YouTube page, youtube.com/@drinknsdry. You can find our podcast at Drink NS Dry at all the podcasty places, or if you can go straight to the source at Drink NS unsupervised.beer. I'm having a 7.6%, so I'm not sure if all of my URLs are accurate right now, but I'm hoping. And regardless.